Food is more than just what's on our plate. It's the places where it's grown, it's the people who grow it, and so much more. Join me, Janice Person, your host, on Grounded by the Farm every other week as we talk about the foods we love. When you think of the stereotypical American farmer, you may not arrive at a picture of a gentleman like Terren Moore. Terren is only 24 and has been building this as a business and really thinking about it as how can he build wealth that he'll be able to transfer in the future to his kids and grandkids. He's had his family's help as he does this kind of thing, but it's amazing what he's done in terms of his customer base, in terms of looking at how to invest in his future, invest in the environment and innovation. Terren is really doing things his own way, and he shares that story with us, as well as his take on one of my favorite Southern foods, and that is purple hull peas. And I can still remember the feeling of shelling those all day. So sit back, go ahead. You're going to want to hit the show notes up or go to groundedbythefarm.com. We're going to mention it in here, but there is a video of his farm when he was in high school that we're going to share in the show notes and things. So you're going to want to check it out. All right, thanks so much, and here we go. This week we're talking to Terren Moore, and Terren is down in Texas. I'm going to make him tell where he farms versus where he lives, because I know he's in small towns all over the place. It's east of Dallas, and he does vegetables. So, Terren, why don't you give people a little clue of, how young you are, and when did you start getting interested in farming and agriculture?
Yeah, so I am 24 years old. I just turned 24 in June, so I'm a youngin'. But I started farming when I was 15 years old. I got my spark of agriculture through the FFA. And so I tried out a leadership development event called Farm Skills. And after doing Farm Skills, I got a spark for agriculture, and I started growing my own garden when I was 15 years old. Very small garden in the backyard to start off with, and then I eventually continued on to acreage to where now I'm doing a few acres of vegetables. And so I have two locations. I have one location in Winona, Texas, which is where I'm from. It's all family land. And so I grew some okra there this year. Of course, this year, unfortunately, didn't go as planned, but I did still farm that ground this year. And I have another location out in Brashear, Texas, which is a very, very small town just south of Sulphur Springs. And so, it's probably 15 minutes from Sulphur Springs, which is right off of the Interstate 30, probably about 50 to 60 miles east of Dallas.
Wow, yeah. So did anybody in your family farm?
Yes, so my dad used to farm. My dad's a full-time truck driver, and so he used to do same thing that I'm doing, purple hull peas and cream peas. And as a young kid, I remember sitting in his lap in the tractor when he was plowing ground and stuff like that. But I never did really do a whole lot of work on the farm. I just remember as a young kid, we got pictures of me sitting in his lap in the tractor. But as far as me actively doing any kind of farm activities, that didn't start until I was about 15 years old after joining the FFA. But yeah, my dad used to farm. He still has started on the farm a little bit now. Like I said, he's still a full-time truck driver, so it's kind of time-consuming to continue farming whenever you're on the road all the time. But he did used to farm when I was a young boy.
Yeah. Some of the land, you said some of it's family land. Is that do you have family members that live nearby, or is it separate from houses pretty far?
Correct. And so my parents' house is about 10 minutes from the land that I farm on in Winona. So I've got two different fields in that family land. And one is my grandma's land, farming a couple of acres of her land. And then there's another spot just adjacent to it. It's my uncle's land, who lives in Florida. And so he's allowed me to farm that land. My grandma's allowed me to farm the land. The only agreement is, as long as I get some fresh produce, I can farm it as long as my heart desires to. So that's the lease agreement over there on the family land.
That sounds like a nice one. I know several other black folks down south who had land in the family. And you and I talked to some of them when we were at Blogalicious several years ago, right? There were there were several people. I remember Ashley Carter from North Carolina and various folks at different points saying they had land in the family, but nobody knew how to farm and nobody knew what to do with it. So you said your dad had been farming this land kind of recently. Are there other people in your family that are trying to do this? Or are you the only one?
Yeah, as far as the family goes, I'm the only one actively farming, which of course I couldn't do without my family because they're the ones who have the land, and my dad gave me a basic understanding of how to plant and how to farm and everything. But as far as my family actively farming, I'm the lone ranger. So yeah, it's just me and the family farming now. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, no, I get it. My family doesn't have a lot of farmers either. So lots of families are, maybe one or two people, and lots of families have absolutely nobody.
Exactly.
So it's really easy for me to understand because for generations, my family didn't have any farmers that we knew of, at least in it. You said you got started because you were doing FFA. In your high school, was that connected to taking classes, or was it just after school kind of things that you could sign up for?
Right. So I joined the ag class as a freshman in high school, kind of as a blow-off class. I was hoping I'd sit in the back and, just talk to a few folks and do a little bit of assignments and get out of there. But all the FFA activities were mostly after school. And so the farm skills activity was after school, and so they taught us how to. I think we were doing like a brooder, like a heat brooder lamp for hogs and stuff like that during the winter months. But yeah, so it's mostly an after school activity because you're in the shop and you're building things, and if you have animals, of course, it's mostly after school. So majority of it was after school activities, but we have classes throughout the day, and so I had an ag class. I think my senior year I had like 2 or 3 ag classes. I feel like, I don't know, I was just always in the shop and always taking care of my animals, and we were always, if you were an FFA at my school, you were always in that shop or always doing something around the area. So
that's really funny. It reminds me of me taking wood shop, and I thought it would be really easy, and then I found I really loved like working with my hands, and I think a lot of students don't necessarily have a lot of different options at schools. Hopefully this year, so many people are doing more homeschooling and things. I would love for more people to be able to expose their kids to some of this, even if it's a container garden or something. I've had them on the balcony at apartments and stuff, at least for herbs and some tomatoes or something. It's kind of nice to get your feet wet. I think one of the things that FFA did, and I don't know, like you and I never really talked about your FFA program much. I was surprised how much students were learning about business and making business plans and budgeting. And did you get into all that stuff when you were in ag school, or only the hands-on stuff?
I did, and I'm so grateful for it today. We had this is across the state of Texas, is we have something called SAEs. And SAE is a supervised agricultural experience. And so with my farming, I turned that into an SAE. So I had to document all my input costs, had to document if I spent so much on fertilizer or so much on seed or so much on labor. I had all these documents of what my input costs were. Then when I sold my crop, I put in how much I sold, who I sold it to, what kind of piece they get. Like it really gave me a head start learning how to do that at a young age, because now I've got my assistant for insurance. She also does my spreadsheet for my farming stuff, and she has this really pretty spreadsheet, and all I've got to do is put in the numbers. But I know what numbers to put in because I know what my input costs are. I know what I'm spending money on. And so we did learn the business aspect of agriculture in school, and I'm very, very, very grateful that I learned that before even entering college.
Yeah, it's funny because when I talked to Mr. Lloyd Johnson, and he's been growing crops his whole life, and he said, I don't know, 60, 70 crops. He couldn't remember how many he had grown, but I asked him what advice he would give somebody if they wanted to start a farm, and he said, remember, it's not just some lifestyle. You got to have a business plan. You got to figure out how you're going to do it and how you're going to be able to make money if you want to expand it. So he loves the lifestyle of it too. Don't get him wrong, but I think that business focus and really understanding how to, because you only get paid how often a year, right? Like there's a peak season for. So right now you're in black-eyed peas and cream peas. Do you have both? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Purple hull peas and cream peas, they're pretty similar. They all taste the same to me, honestly.
I'd probably call the green ones field peas. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, purple hull peas, I remember those because my fingertips would turn purple.
They sure will.
My mama made us shell those things all day long in the summer.
That's good for you. Yeah, that's good for you. That's why you turned out the way you did, like an awesome person. Shelling peas.
Yep. I'm telling you, we had to get that freezer full in the summer, right?
That's right.
And if you're doing that right now, all you've been doing is putting money out, right? So you had to buy the seed and you had to buy some fertilizer and I saw you hired some people to help you on the farm. So you've had a crew of people. I made sure that picture on the show notes because it was really nice. I think you shared it on Twitter or Instagram or something. But you've been putting out a lot of money so far, and people don't pay you for your peas in February and March when you start planting. So budgeting is a big piece of farming, right?
It is. So yeah, I use that spreadsheet kind of forecast what I'm going to input for the year. And so before I use my actual Excel spreadsheet, I use a simple Word document. Kind of shows, hey, I'm going to buy this year. Like I'll buy a new tractor this year, for example. So that's input in my fixed costs for the year. And so I bought a tractor this year, and I also bought a new plow this year.
That's a lot of capital expenses you got to be carrying.
Yes. And then on top of that, I've got to buy my seed, and I got to buy my fertilizer, and all that good stuff. But I have an idea of what I'm going to spend for the year. And so before even going into putting that stuff into my system, I have a general idea of what I'm going to spend this year. And my customer base has been built since I was 15 years old, and so I have an idea of how much I'm going to sell as well because they're repeat customers. And so before I buy things, I make sure that the crop that I'm planting is going to get sold if I grow that crop, of course. And so some years they don't make. The field that I planted in Winona didn't make this year, but
that was going to be the okra crop.
Yeah, that was going to be the okra crop. It didn't turn out the way I should. It was all on me. It was just like a maintenance on my part. Of course, I do insurance full time, and so between appointments and stuff, I missed a couple of weeks, and that's all it takes to lose your crop there. So unfortunately, I lost that one, but I have a really good crop this year at the other leased land in Brashear. So grateful for that.
Next year, you're gonna have to find somebody else that can help you.
That's the hard
time
part.
Or something. Planning ahead is hard. So the customers that you have, how have you cultivated those? I mean, some of them are probably friends and family, right, that you've known since you were a kid. But how do you get word of mouth out?
Correct. So when I first started, like I said, I was like 15 years old. I just saw the demand for peas in my area. I always remember at our house, we'd buy peas from someone else. After dad kind of slowed down with farming, we'd buy peas from someone else, and grandma gets peas from somewhere else, and people always were buying peas, and I was like, I'm gonna figure out a way to grow these things. And I remember Dad used to do it, and so I figured out a way to grow those peas so that the demand was already there, so it was really easy to sell. They were really easy to sell. So my first year, I had no kind of records. I had no kind of record keeping. I just kind of just winging it, really. I just kind of put them out there.
I'm guessing a grandparent or a parent helped you buy the seed or something, probably. And
Dad bought my seed
maybe
the first couple years.
Shovels, or you borrow somebody's tractor to do some work or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I depended on Dad for a couple years. I used his tractor. I used his actually a deacon from the church. I used his planter for the for the first few years. So I was using Dad's tractor, the other guy's planter. Dad bought my seed for me, bought my fertilizer. So I was really just doing it for a few years. And so anything that I sold was really just profit in my pocket, thankfully. And so over time, I've cultivated those relationships with those clients over time. They just keep on coming back. Praise the Lord, keep coming back. And so Like I said, I've got the Excel spreadsheet, and it's grown to be a pretty long sheet now. And so when I plant that crop, I already know that it's going to get sold. I have pure confidence it's going to get sold. So but I mean, it took years to get there. It didn't happen overnight. It took years of growing the crop and providing good customer service and calling folks and being good over the phone and making sure that whenever I sell my peas, I make sure to ask the client or the customer. I say, now is this a fair bushel before I sell it? Is this a fair bushel? Are you satisfied with it? Before I sell this to you and take your money, I make sure that they're satisfied with it. And some people, they'll say no. Top it off a little bit more. And it's okay. We'll put some more on there. So doing that over the years is just simple, just customer service and just being good to my customers. They keep on coming back. So I mean, there's some years I've got to send refunds to folks. If they find a few dry peas or something, I'll send a refund check to them if they're not satisfied with their orders. And so just continuously doing that, folks just keep on keep on flowing. Just let it flow. So it's been good.
So if you started this when you were in high school, when you were 15, then in college, did you take classes in this kind of area? Did you really study this in college?
I did, yeah. So my first few years, I went to a junior college and marched in the band. Went to TJC, marched in the band over there, got a 4-hour scholarship doing that. So I was farming at TJC when I lived at home as well. And transferred to Tarleton State University out in Stephenville, Texas. And I have a degree in agricultural services and development, which is basically an ag science degree. And so I took a few soil classes, botany classes. I mean, just your very general crop science classes, stuff like that. And so I did some studies in college that's actually helped me. And probably the biggest thing I've learned from college with my operation is the importance of soil health and cover crops. And so I'm still trying to implement ways to put cover crops into my practice, of course, while also having a cash crop for the fall as well. So my mind is always turning, whether it be farming or insurance or music. My mind's always going, and so I'm still thinking of ways to develop a way to do a cover crop where I can also sell my fall crop at the same time. So I'm still trying to figure that part out. But I know the practice and the importance of it itself through my college classes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of interesting when you see somebody who's really young and they found something they enjoy, right? So what was it about farming that you enjoyed besides you saw a need for it? What part of it kind of lit your fire, I guess?
Yeah, it's just the freedom. I love being free. It's just when you're out there. I mean, when you're farming, you can say you make your own schedule, but you really don't make your own schedule. You're kind of dependent on the weather and stuff. But in a sense, you make your own schedule. You know, if I don't decide to start plowing until the week after Memorial Day or something, then I can do that. So it's kind of up to you when you want to get started. I mean, there's time frames, of course, but you're your own boss. I just love being my own boss, being my own man, and be out there and just the fresh air flowing through you, and you get you're sweating, and you just feel that cool breeze come through, and that soil, you turn that soil over, just the aroma of the soil coming up.
I so wish I shared video on the podcast, because the way you got all the motions going and the facial expressions, it's perfect, Terren.
Yeah. It's just you're just enjoying God's earth when you're farming. You know, it's just I feel one with God whenever I'm out on the farm or out on the land. I just feel like I'm just cultivating His soil and I'm growing crops for His people, and I just feel so grounded.
Yeah.
Grounded by the farm. I feel grounded on the farm.
I like how you got the podcast name right in there. That was smooth how you did that. So tell me, you said your grandmama was always buying peas and your parents were always buying peas.
Oh, yes.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about how y'all eat them. What are your favorite ways to cook or eat peas?
My favorite way to eat peas is with lots of meat in it. So lots and lots of meat, lots of pork and grease.
I was going to say at least bacon grease, if not.
Yes. And so I actually cooked some peas here for myself. Actually, for my two friends from Farmersville, they came over for dinner one night, and I said, "Hey, have y'all ever had cream peas before?" And they said, "No, we haven't." I said, "Well, you're in for a treat, my friend." And so they came on over, and I made some peas for them. And what I do, what Grandma has done, we use a ham hock, and she'll boil that ham hock and get that good old flavor rolling in there, and then
Oh yeah.
put them peas in there and let them boil down, and it's just a bold, very bold taste. It's just
Yeah.
it's hard to explain, but it's just it's really good. So I use any kind of ham hock or any kind of bacon or any kind of pork to put in there, and it turns out pretty dang good. I like it. Lots of meat.
Lots of meat in them. When I was a kid, my family, we also in summer we would get all the green tomatoes at the late in the season, and we would make something we called chow chow. It's like a relish. You know what I mean?
It's the best. I know exactly what you mean. It's the best.
And seriously, when I went away to college and stuff, I thought, how can I eat peas without it? It was a little bit frightening, to face that moment. I have found you can eat it without it. Since then, I've also found I make like Texas caviar sometimes with black eyed peas. Some eat with some chips and stuff. Every now and then, even do that on New Year's Day or something, because you gotta have those black eyed peas when it comes to New Year's.
Absolute best.
And cornbread is a preferred accompanying item.
Yes, peas and cornbread. That's a good.
With a nice cast iron skillet, put a real singe on that.
That's right. That's a good, well balanced diet. I could eat peas and cornbread for the rest of my life, it'd be just fine. As long as there's lots of meat in there, I gotta have my meat too.
You gotta have your meat. Well, peas actually peas ought to be on everybody's list, right? Like they got such great fiber. They've got great protein. They some good looking. Yeah, those ought to be something folks eat more of probably, because
they should.
I think if you think about it, a lot of us love those starches, potatoes and rice and corn and all those kind of things, but some of those other vegetables on our plate make a lot of sense too.
Exactly. Yeah,
so, would you say being able to like work on your budgets and figure out how to do this stuff? I mean, you're 24 and you own a house and everything. Like, how many of your peers do you see in that same kind of mode? Unless, you've worked for everything you got.
That's
Other
right.
than you had support of family. You had family to help you out, but they didn't payroll. They didn't.
Exactly.
They didn't buy your house and all that kind of stuff. So
exactly.
I assume there's got to be a lot of pride in that kind of accomplishment.
Yeah, and so my biggest thing is that I do agree with you. There's not a whole lot of folks my age who are running two businesses and own a home and own multiple vehicles and stuff and own tractors and farm equipment and stuff. I will agree. There's not a lot my age who are in that position, but it's my job to simply inspire those and motivate those who want those things. I feel like not everyone really wants to, own equipment or own a home or own a business. Some people just want to just do the bare minimum and be happy. But I want to inspire those who want more and who want to who want more and who think bigger to do that, because it's very attainable. Hey, if Terren Moore can do it, anybody can do it. And so I believe everything I've done is very attainable, from farming to insurance to having assets. I think all these things are very attainable if you're surrounded by the right people, such as Janice. She's been a great inspiration for me since I was in college. Literally since I was like a senior in college. I think you called me and you're like, "Hey, come speak at this."
Yeah. I would say I've known you since you were a baby is what it felt like, because I knew you for a long time before we ever actually talked on the phone or something, thanks to Twitter. Somewhere along the line I found you.
Yes,
but it is one of those things that to me it seems like for young people, if you think about it, if there are ways that, or if you see things that you think, I could do that, maybe I could do that, finding the people in your life who could help support you in that goal. I mean, you could start in a backyard
Right.
in a city to grow enough vegetables that you could sell it to some neighbors and stuff like that. And eventually you could find somebody that has a little more land, maybe, somebody
right.
from church or something that, somebody from your softball team or whatever it is, and slowly branch out. I think part of it for me is that idea of creating wealth that can be long term and be able to be transferred later. As I talked to Mr. Johnson, I mentioned Natalie Brazil, who wrote Queen Sugar, and it really stuck with me. Like, we need more of our folks buying land and
That's right.
understanding how it works and figuring out how to invest in it and their families and that kind of thing. So I love you're a perfect example of it, Terren.
Thank you.
I love it.
And I try to think of ways to have multiple wealth transfer vehicles, of course. And so for me, my farm, that's a wealth transfer vehicle. So someday if I get married and have children, I can pass it down to them, whether they want to do it or not. At least I'll have the assets and the land to transfer that wealth to them. And then through business as well, if I want to, transfer that knowledge down to someone else, they can start their own agency or something and do that themselves. And so I'm always looking for ways to, like I said, motivate and inspire folks to have not only one stream of income. You can have two or three or four. You can have multiple streams of income that you can, it ain't got to be farming. It can be anything. You can. I see lots of people on social media selling all kinds of stuff these days. It ain't just my farm. There's lots of people are always selling stuff. People are always wanting to buy stuff. People love spending money, and so if you can think of a way for people to buy your product, people love spending money. So figure out a way people want to buy, and I think that's just a way to have more of those wealth transfer vehicles.
Yeah, I think those other ways also usually take some work. They may not be the same kind of sweat
Right.
out on a tractor or something, but to develop your audience and stuff, that takes a little bit of work. I've been working on it myself for sure, and this isn't even a paid vehicle. This is just because I love talking about food and farming, and and so many of the people I know didn't get to meet farmers otherwise. So this is a way. While my niece is at work, she can give it a listen and maybe learn something she didn't know.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, where can people get in touch with you? I know you're on Twitter and Instagram and all those kind of things. So you say you're always looking to inspire folks. Where would you tell them to find you?
You can find me anywhere on the internet. You can just Google Terren Moore and I'll pop up on there.
It's Terren Moore.
Terren. So you can Google me, or you can look me up on Facebook, Terren Moore, and I've got a business page. It's called Moore Farms and Insurance. Because it first started as Moore Peas Company. That's what I had in high school. Actually, I had shirts made in high school. Like, me and my friends would walk around with these shirts that said Moore Peas Company. We thought we were so cool. But anyways.
I love it.
Actually, we were pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie. We were pretty cool. We had Moore Peas shirts in high school, and they helped on the farm and stuff. And they're still good friends of mine to this day. But the reason I had to call it Moore Farms is because hopefully I get more diverse, and I'm trying to grow some okra. And I've had a few rough years growing okra, but I'm gonna figure it out one of these days. Figure out how to produce. But okra,
watermelon,
talk to some
cotton farmers about okra.
Yeah, they're in the same family, right? Malvaceae.
Yeah, they're in the same family, and so okra, for people who've never seen the plant, okra is such a southern thing. It really is something other people don't understand. But it looks a little bit like a cotton plant or a hibiscus plant, and the flowers are just beautiful. I mean, they absolutely are. But it does not like a lot of rain.
No, it doesn't.
And things like that. And so it can be a little bit fidgety about things. But I would say we're going to get you connected up with some cotton farmers that may be able to give you some advice, because I think that's probably one of the differences between it and peas or something. Peas are a lot more like soybeans and things. And they just kind of tend to be a little more good-natured and can take a little bit more abuse than
they're pretty easy to grow. Yeah, they're pretty easy. That's why I do. It's low maintenance. These are low maintenance. Yeah. But yeah, you can just Google Terren Moore. You can find me on Twitter. I think my handle is Moore Terren, so not too hard to find. Moore Terren. Then Instagram. You just type in Terren Moore, and I think you can find me across the internet pretty easily. So.
All right. Well, there you go. So, Terren, thanks so much for being on the show with us. I'm gonna have so much fun when this one comes out. I'm gonna put the video too. I remember the video that was done about you while you were in college, and I'm gonna see if I can find that again. The guys at Farm Bureau had done that on you. I'm going to see if I can find that, because I think a lot of people would like to see your story and see a little bit of that area where you work and stuff. Because one of the things about farming and travel is you get to see all these different places. And a lot of folks go to Texas, they see Dallas or they see Austin or San Antonio, and they don't all get to go out and see these nice little parts of Texas with all the small towns where when you find a Whataburger, you know you're in a big place.
Oh yeah,
it's just Dairy Queen.
Oh yeah, y'all come on Texas. We'll hang out. We'll pick some peas and eat some peas and fellowship, and we'll have a good time.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Terren. That brings us to the end of the episode, and hope that you enjoyed hearing a little bit more about Terren and starting farming as a young person. Really getting that excitement developed in high school and different possibilities. Please go ahead and encourage other students in high school to check these things out. You never know what will really resonate for somebody. I love that when Terren talks about it, he talks about his customers and the excitement that they brought to it, as well as the financial picture. He really is the total package. Make sure you've hit subscribe and catch us online on any of our social channels. Just look for Grounded by the Farm.